Biddeford Intermediate School.
Biddeford Intermediate School.
That you're responsible and that you're respectful. On responsible, we've talked about this a couple times, participate. So if I look at you and you're not singing, I'm going to think to myself, oh, this kid is having a hard time. They haven't learned the song yet. I'm going to need to give them some extra help. The City of Biddeford has adopted a music curriculum. It's K through 12. All the music teachers either helped create it or we voted on it. We all had a piece of it somehow. That document has a number, it's all standards based. The standards line up with the national standards and also the Maine learning results. So when I'm deciding, I make all my plans in the summer, and when I'm deciding what am I going to teach my students, I look to those standards. The other elementary teachers and we have had a lot of discussion on, we felt like certain standards were a little more important than others, so we created our own set of power standards. These are standards that we usually hit in every music class if possible. Tempo, articulation, and harmony. So you're going to write in those boxes. I'm going to show you the tempo from the beginning. Kind of do this with your hand. This is the beat of the song. And then there are other standards where maybe we're just hitting it for a couple classes or for a certain project. So I find standards-based education just very clear. I'm not a creative thinker. I don't think in shades of gray. I am a black and white person. I like to know, what do you want me to, what can I teach these children? I need it to be very labeled out, cut and dry. So standards-based education really works for me because the standard tells you what to teach. Students will sing on pitch. Students will keep a steady beat. Students can play the recorder, these 5 notes. Students can create songs. Whatever the standard is, it makes it very clear to me. This is what they came up with on their own. The beauty of America, the forest, shady trees.
The standard-based system right now for Biddeford is that we're taking on the Common Core, and we have done some rubric work with the teachers, so they're using the same tools in all their classes. We are embracing the science standards right now, along with the reading and the math. Staff has been great. Andrea Wollstadt is, and even our art department works on standards based completely. So they're both doing a really great job. Kids can tell you what they're learning, why they're learning it. So Andrea definitely has been a star as far as getting music, art and gym, and all the different computer. She has really taken a leadership role.
5, 2, ready, go. And I also like a more student-centered approach. I don't like the idea that I'm going to stand up and present the information and there you go. That seems like a very dated model to me. I need to know that my students are meeting these standards. 1, 2, ready, and go. 1, 3, 4. Much more
Challenging than it might seem, because if you have 20 students and 3 are special ed and they must label their notes in order to keep up with everybody else, then that has to be approached differently than that same group where there might be 3 students that are gifted and talented and 3 students that are just really gifted in music that play really well or read really well. So it's having all of that at once.
Strangers, strangers, everywhere I roam, show me the road that leads to my home.
So I will use assessments. Some of my assessments are very formal. We have a piece of paper, a paper trail, a grade. Other assessments, I have like this little symbol I use in my kindergarten classroom. I point to the kid, I point to my head, and I go like this. And this is all in the middle of a song. We're singing along and I'm going like this. And they know that means you were in your head voice. Good job. And that's part of a standard. One of their standards is to sing, to learn how to sing, and part of learning how to sing for those kindergartners is for them to get up in their head voice. So a way that we can meet that standard, a way that I can know they meet it as I'm teaching, so I don't have to take time out of my teaching to assess them. It's happening so they know. It's that instant feedback, which I think the young kids really need. In my classroom, my students do not really know what standards, that word means, what a standard is. They don't, most of them don't even know what the word assessment means. So I try to use words that I think they understand. We say things like, how would you rate yourself? I use that word rate a lot. I say, how would you judge yourself? Or even a simple question is, how do you think you are doing with any particular topic? Some of my assessments, like I said earlier, are formal, where I record them in my database. I have a database of all 600 students. I start with the 200 kids in kindergarten. I take 3 formal assessments. I pass the database on to the music teacher who does grades 1, 2, and 3. She adds her assessments, whatever they are, and then at the end of 3rd grade, she's going to pass it back to me. So by the end of 5th grade, I should have lots of data on each child. That's what we're working towards, that having a database with some more formal assessments. The assessments tend to be more on the power standards because we feel like if we're going to help these kids, and some of the kids, to me, if a student is not really all that interested in singing and they're kind of singing quiet, and they might be a child that's whisper singing, again, it's going back to that student-centered model. I don't see the benefit in really pushing that kid to sing out and forcing them to do something they don't want to do. When I have a child who wants very much to learn how to sing, and for whatever reason they can't, maybe they're not singing on pitch, maybe they're not in their head voice, those are the kids that I feel like we really need to keep track of them. We need some hard data. How are they doing? Okay, they came in kindergarten, really not singing on pitch. 1st grade, we're kind of getting there, so maybe are they meeting that standard by 2nd grade? Have we addressed that? So we then use that data to really, we're looking back, if I don't need to grade them, my assessment could be something like an S or an L or a P or whatever. Sometimes my assessments are yes or no. Sometimes my assessments are a checklist that they have to check off. So really, I don't record anything because if they can't give me that paper back until each thing is checked off. So it's like, yeah, okay, they did it, assessment done, they did each thing. Keeping more to a formative type assessment and engaging them in the assessment process, I feel like they are owning it a little bit more because it's not a summative assessment. There's not that fear that I'm going to get a bad grade.
Trouble, trouble, trouble on my mind. Show me the road that leads to my home. My precious little pieces, music brushes this time. Show me the road that leads to my home.
Power standards in elementary school would be singing on pitch. That's something I address every single class, especially with the kindergarten. Another power standard for kindergarten is teaching kids how to keep a steady beat. And I can do that a number of ways. I can do that with instruments, I can do it with movement, we could be clapping rhythms, but those 2 power standards, I joke to people, I'm like, I only teach 2 things in kindergarten, singing on pitch and keeping a steady beat. We do lots of other things and we attack those standards through a variety of styles of music. We do lullaby. There's other standards that are not power standards that I do hit in other lessons, like having students create music. So I won't use that standard every class, but some classes I will have that. But those power standards I'm getting every single class. Mendelssohn's View of Spring. Today we heard Vivaldi's View of Spring, which was same or different, do you think? Different. He had a more lively. Next week we're going to hear Stravinsky's version of Spring. Great. And then after that, does anybody know what we're going to do? Any ideas? Stravinski's version of spring? Yours.
I think we are able to look at those assessments across the board, look at all the data, look at my database, and on any given standard, I feel like I can comfortably say these 5 kids are, you know, incredibly gifted at singing on pitch. So not only do they meet that standard, they go above it. Now these 20 kids are meeting that standard. These few are not, or maybe they're just starting. These few are not at all. So I think on each standard, yes, I can.
She came up with this scale, I guess, and it's like shout singing from like bottom to top. Shout singing, speaking voice.
SS is speaking, and no, shout singing. S is
speaking voice.
L is low.
Lower
H
than
is,
the song.
Yes.
H is higher than it.
M is matching song.
You're right on beat. And exceptional matching is when
better.
you like put drama, extra emotion, and just you have fun with it.
While you're singing, I want you to be thinking in your mind, how are you doing? Rate yourself. Does anybody want to tell me what these letters mean? Do you guys remember? We'll start with, it's EM. Kaylee, do you remember what EM means? Or
Exceptional matching.
exceptional matching. A student is singing higher than where the song is. L means they're going to be singing lower than where the song is. Oh, that leads to my home. I'm not shout singing, but I'm using a nice.
Asks you to rate yourself, so it's pretty cool.
And we'll share how you rate yourself. Are we ready? Here we go.
Too many miles I have traveled all alone. Show me the road that leads to my home.
And how would you rate yourself? What do you think?
Maybe maybe sometimes.
Okay. I would agree with you. I wasn't hearing H. I didn't hear any parts where you were higher than the song. So I think you're right between an M and an M. That's what I would say.
I have a rubrics assessment, and I've kind of modified it a lot over the years, and it's always changing. The side that gives all the categories might be going over things like technique, breathing and posture, note reading, rhythm, and then on the other side I have like the 4 exceeds the standard, 3 meets, 2, 1 goes down from there. Each student will they'll play something, whether it's by themselves or maybe in a small group, just depending on the size of the class. And I'll just quickly fill through the rubrics in class, and then I go back and I make comments for the parents at the bottom, and it goes home in their Thursday folder. Every class that they come, we're doing small assessments that just, okay, your group 1, your group 2, you play, just to check in if the class is large. If the class is small, I feel like I'm always assessing them. If there's 5 students, it's very clear who knows and who doesn't. And it's really easy to fire off the questions to them and just as a conversation in the class to understand who knows the topic that we're talking about, who doesn't.
Famous composers, you're starting to think, what is your song going to sound like? Is your song going to be loud? Is it going to be soft? Is it going to be fast? Is it going to be slow? What is? When you are done, flip your paper over so I know that you're done.
I don't officially report out to parents because they don't receive a grade on the report card. But unofficially, I do a great deal of reporting out. I make phone calls all the time. This is what I see your child doing. I tend to make calls with students that are successful, because if they're not successful, I would like to deal with that first and try to figure it out. But that lack of official grading, you know, them not getting graded on their report card, what I'm finding is that I think for young kids, anything summative, they transform that in their head to good and bad. And so if they think they're doing bad, then they lose all initiative or motivation to keep going. Oh, I'm bad at that. So if they got some type of negative grade on a singing assignment, I think for a lot of them, they would never open their mouth to sing again. And what's the point of that? That's almost the opposite effect of what I want. Initiative, working with other teachers and experimenting, getting other ideas, just being able to trade, ideas back and forth has been so helpful. I've gotten away from numbers. I've gotten away from what we would call summative assessment because I don't need to give them a grade. So I thought to myself, if I don't need to give them a number grade, why, what is the point of this?
You are songwriters today. A lot of words are pretty old-fashioned, and I thought we needed a new version of a patriotic song. So this is the tune. Da, 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 da. You need to line up your words with the music. Somebody finish the sentence. George Washington. 3 notes. Washington. 1, 2, 3.
George Washington was our first president, and he was brave.
I'm going to have you working with your partner. If you need my help, you're going to sign up on the board.
The 50 states are Kentucky and Alabama too. So bravery is through the